for 9:30 is from Valerie Burnett from ByWater Solutions, and she's going to be talking about explore inventory, present and future possibilities. So please welcome Valerie.
Hello, yes, that's me. I'm Valerie, and I'm here to talk to you about inventory. I am a data and migration librarian with ByWater Solutions. I have a professional history with medical libraries, high school libraries, and an academic library. I am very excited to be here to talk to you about inventory. How excited am I? I am so excited that when I submitted this presentation, I made a conscious choice to choose koha-US over FanX, which is Comic-Con in Salt Lake City. So I am here instead of a Comic-Con. And I had to tell my friends, my Comic-Con friends, I'm not going to Comic-Con this year. And I had to tell them why and what I was doing. And they were like, okay, well, autumn in New England, that'll be nice. And if they were curious, they'd say, well, what's the conference you're going to? And I tell them, Koha is the open source library software that we support at work. And they would give me the same blank stare I always get when I try and talk about my job. But if they were still persistent and curious, and they'd say, well, what are you presenting on? And I'd say, I'm talking about library inventory. And they look at me and say, autumn in New England. But I'm not sure if my position on inventory is clear, but I think inventory is great. And I will be talking today about why I think inventory is great, some of the ways that librarians do inventory in Koha. We'll do like a brief glide past bugs, a little discussion of the shelf reading plugin, and then I get to talk about what I think about inventory and the future. I was going to mention, Mindy was asking about those of us that have actually been in a non-automated library. The very first time I did inventory was my first day on the job at a high school library. And the librarian sat me down in front of the shelf. She gave me a book truck and the card, not the card catalog from that the people use, but the back and card catalog, and had me shelf read. And I had to go through and look at the card and the books. And then if there was something wrong, put a card up. And this was my new job, shelf reading young adult fiction. I was like, yes, it's great. So if you've been paying attention to my slides, you might notice a theme. And there's a few reasons for this theme. The first is these are pictures from my yard in Salt Lake City. And I have really no illusions. I know that I am a mediocre gardener and a mediocre photographer, but I'm sharing these because I am speaking to a room full of very friendly strangers, and these will keep me grounded. The second is because of a metaphor, and hopefully I can do this metaphor justice. I was talking with a friend about libraries, and my friend is very passionate about books. Like very, very passionate about books. And she was asking me, we wound up discussing deselection. And her point of view was books are beautiful and every book is precious. And if it comes through the door of the library, it should stay there. Why would you ever deselect? And I used my self-seeding sunflower forest as a metaphor to explain this to her. And a few years ago, I planted sunflowers in front of my house. Planted 6 sunflowers. And ever since then, I've had the whole strip has come alive with sunflowers, which has been pretty exciting. And in the spring, when they come up, the whole strip is green with sunflowers. And I love them and I love the chaos, but what I do is I go in and I find the biggest ones and then I pull out all the sunflower plants around them. And if I'm industrious, I take them and plant them somewhere else. But I do not let the whole strip grow because I want them to grow tall and strong. So I give them space and room to thrive. And I was explaining to my friend that we have to take care of our library collections too. And as much as we love every single one, sometimes we have to give them room and space to thrive and do some deselection and some gardening and some weeding to make the collections healthier and better. And I'm not sure if you knew that I liked inventory, so I really think that inventory is a very important tool for maintaining a healthy library collection. I think it's great for librarians because librarians, we collect data and data informs what we do, and it helps us with our budgets, helps us report to our stakeholders. And inventory is one source of data that helps us keep our collections going well. It's also good for patrons, and part of our relationship with our patrons is this relationship of trust, so that when they ask for something, when they look something up for in the catalog and they see it's on a shelf, then they go to the shelf and it's there. And that is a transaction that has shown that we can, I'm adding these to my words. But it's a relationship of trust. And if the patrons look up something in the catalog and go to the shelf and it's not there, that's a negative interaction. And of course it's going to happen, but inventory is something that helps us prevent that where possible and helps strengthen our relationship of trust and working relationship with our patrons. Inventory is also good for the collection, and I think I've mentioned that. We just need tools to maintain a healthy and vibrant collection that serves our community well. However, inventory can be a pain in the rear end. It is fussy and takes a lot of resources and can be finicky. So the first thing I'm going to do is just review how inventory works in Koha. There are two methods to do this. The first one is when you go into inventory, you can print a collection. So you can go in, you select your parameters, you pick your branch, you can do your location, you can give it a call number range. You tell it, this is where I'm going to inventory. Koha will generate for you a list. You can print this list on paper, or you can put it on the screen. If you have a mobile device, you can take that little list out into the stacks, or you can take the paper out into the stacks and compare, do shelf reading, just like I did in that first library. Compare what's on your list to the shelf. This is not my preferred or recommended way to do inventory in Koha. I feel like it has too many traps and too many ways for it to go wrong. In an academic library, you have a whole host of student workers that you're trying to keep busy, and you can give them those pieces of paper and send them out into the stacks to do the shelf reading. But even the most fastidious students are going to make mistakes. There's a lot of matching and looking at and getting the barcodes or the call numbers right. There's a lot of scope for human error. And if you don't have the most fastidious student and they've come in and gone to the stacks with their boyfriend or girlfriend to do inventory, additionally, that list that I showed you, it can be a bit awkward if you have paper, then you have to come back, you have to select the boxes. And my understanding is if you have one book out of order, unfortunately, it doesn't handle it well, and then everything's out of order. And instead of getting meaningful feedback, you have to work through a whole bunch of negative results to find what's actually there. So my preference is not this method. The second method is scanning barcodes. And there are ways you can do this in Koha. First is you can use a scanner or a mobile device to generate a list. Then you have a list of barcodes, you can upload it. You can also scan those barcodes right into Koha. You don't have to make a list, you can just scan them right in. But you do need to do it in a batch, because for each time that you enter your barcodes, you give it a date. If you don't want the inventory date to be today, you can give it whatever date you want to pretend you did inventory. Again, you can give it parameters. You give it a branch, you give it locations, and then You give it your list of barcodes, it goes through and it marks them as seen. So it updates their last date. It tells you how many read, how many barcodes it updated. It can give you some feedback, like we scanned a book on the shelf that was checked out. Maybe we should deal with that. It can give you suggestions that things are out of order or things that should have been there but didn't get scanned. It can tell you, oh, this book was withdrawn and it's on your shelf. So while this is my preferred method, it still has some imperfections. For me, one of the drawbacks is that you generate the whole list before you get your feedback. So if you go out to the shelf, scan all your books, and then you come back, and then you see that this is out of order and that was checked out, you have to go back to the stacks and catch it. One of the fussy things about Koha that we have discovered is that it doesn't like big lists of barcodes. And libraries don't always think about that as they're scanning, so they come with their huge list of barcodes and they upload it, and it times out. So they upload it again, and then they upload it again, and pretty soon they've given themselves a denial of service attack. And secondly, the first time you scan those barcodes, you get results, and then now Koha has inventoried them. So the next time you scan them, you're going to get different results. So if you want those first time results and it times out, you've lost that data. So this is a good method of taking inventory. It has some drawbacks.
What's too big in terms of?
Oh, that is a good question.
It's not much.
Sure.
Like 100 will totally, you'll be sitting there waiting.
100? Wow.
I said more than that.
Yeah, I would think it would have at least 100, but once you get to like 500 to 1,000, I don't know. It's been a while since I've done a big batch. I'm just helping libraries who have. So like I mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about bugs, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is that I want you to know that the community is addressing some of these concerns. And these bugs all have very similar titles. Inventory performs unnecessary lookup, inventory is slow, inventory should run in the background. And the Koha community is aware of some of these problems and working to resolve them. So this first one, inventory tool performs unnecessary authorized value lookups, just means it's doing more work than it needs to, and so it takes longer. This one has been pushed to master, so this problem is solved. And the second bug, as far as I can tell, is related to the first, so I consider them both resolved. The third one that is encouraging inventory to be run in the background to help it perform better, I believe is related to the fourth one, which is also saying inventory takes a long time. And this one is in testing. So people are looking at these problems and addressing them. Another bug, and this one is in the 10,000s, and we're currently in the 30,000s, so this is a very old bug. Is a wish list of ways that inventory can be better. And this is where libraries have come in and said, this is what we want inventory to do, and we want it to work better. On this bug is a link to a shelf reading plugin, and the person that created this plugin went in and said, hey, I've made this plugin. It does what you're asking. And so I went and installed the plugin. Divert for a moment and say, I'm giving you guys bugs and I'm giving you guys links. And at the end, I'm going to have a big little QR code so you can see them all. So if you are interested in these links, I am going to gather them all up at the end so you can see them. This shelf reading plugin says it allows inventory and shelf order to be updated and evaluated in real time. The item will be marked with the current date in the date last seen field. Lost items are marked as not lost, and items are checked for correct order. So this is a more immediate way of doing inventory. You take your scanner out to the shelf, you scan a book, you get results. You scan a book, you get results. So that's pretty exciting. There are some drawbacks to plugins. They aren't always updated at the same speed as Koha. When I tried to install this on a 2211 server, my server went down and I needed to call the systems department at ByWater and say, fix my server. So plugins can be tricky that way. And it's an exciting set of features, but if you were interested in it, you need to be knowledgeable and install it on a test server and know what you're doing, because you'll have to fix it if it goes badly. So now we get to the point where I talk about what I want to see in the future of inventory. Excuse me, I think I'm gonna run and get my water. So I envision inventory in the future a lot like that shelf reading plugin, something that we call an interactive inventory tool, where you can scan the barcode and get a result, immediate results. Also useful would be if it can have the results for you, so that if something goes wrong and you miss that first data screen, you can still see what went wrong, what needs to be fixed. Something that can store your inventory parameters, so that if your student goes out to do inventory and then forgets to note where they ended, you can still know where to start inventory next time. And ensure that your feedback doesn't get lost. Now, the reason that this hasn't happened yet is that inventory is a very big code chunk and it's a lot of work. Making this change is not an easy change, and it's not something that we can just do like that. So I can talk about it all I want, but I'm not the one that has to code it. And it's going to take time and it's going to take resources. It's a big thing that is going to take a lot of work to change directions. But I also think that if we can pivot and make it better, that this would be good for Koha. It would advance the product and it would really serve our libraries better. So this is where I get to kind of talk like a salesperson, but I'm not a salesperson, so I feel really awkward about it. But ByWater Solutions, my employer, does do custom development, and it's on our website. And one of the things that is on our custom development crowdfunding site is an interactive inventory tool. And this kind of highlights ways that inventory can be better. And it also has a price. And if libraries are interested in putting in the time and the resources and the money, this is a future that we can see, but Koha is a community and it is something that people need to want and put in the resources to move it forward. But I don't have any idea at the time how long I've been talking. So I don't know.
Minutes.
What?
11 minutes.
Oh, I went faster than I thought. Isn't it always how it is? So this is a QR code that goes to a page that will have all my links as long as I published it correctly. And if I didn't, you can scold me and I will fix it. That's what I do. Scold me, I fix it. And I'd like to know, do you have any questions, comments, criticisms, anything? Yes.
I just want to throw out to the Reports Plus plugin by Nick, which is what we use for inventory. We've written a bunch of custom reports and we used it everywhere. So thanks.
Excellent. Good. So for those of you that can't hear, because
Sorry.
yeah, what is it? The
Reports Plus plugin.
okay, so the Reports Plus plugin by Nick is something that one of our librarians uses for customer reports and uses it every day. And this is not something I knew about to tell you about. And yes, Nick.
I was just gonna say that the functionality of the Reports Plus plugin is now built into Koha, so you shouldn't actually have to use the plugin. You can just use the Koha Reports module and use a. You set it up to enter a list. I don't remember how to do it, but I know that you can.
And I'm not sure if you guys that are not here heard that, but Reports Plus plugin is now part of the functionality, so you don't need the plugin.
Which library am I doing?
Fargo.
Fargo.
That's Fargo Library that
North Dakota.
uses reports for inventory. Other comments or questions? Yes, hello.
No, just a comment, I was doing inventory in my fairly small library. I numbered each shelf and then scanned, printed up barcodes for begin and end. So begin and this row, this row, and so I could have batches and I knew where they were. That helped me a little bit. Also, when I scanned one of our collections, I found out that 40% is. I'm not gonna scan that one.
Our computer said that he scanned his collection and found that 40% was missing, so that was a mistake to scan that collection. And he also says he keeps the first and the last barcode to keep track of where he's at. Yes, hello.
Hi there, is there work currently happening on the big inventory bug, or is it really waiting for funding to show up to sort of kick it in the ass?
So the tickets that I referenced that are about speed, those are in progress. Making the leap to a interactive inventory is not in progress because it needs funding and work.
Okay.
It's no small change. Anything else? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand from Valerie.
Has anyone noticed the difference between doing an inventory when your library is open and then doing one when your library is closed? Like fewer mistakes?
Very occasionally, we will have a book get checked out or moved or something in between when we scan barcodes and when we make it downstairs. But that's not that often.
I think it depends on how you're doing your inventory, because if you're doing, like, if you're taking a scanner and going around scanning stuff and then batch loading that into there, those books could just or be checked out before you batch load them. So that's something to be careful of.
Yeah, we ran into that. We used to scan them and we ran into that problem with scanning when we were open. And we had all sorts of issues. I'm sure Christopher probably remembers we ran into all sorts of problems with it. So we started closing and doing it that way. Now we actually print the paper over the shelf and do it that way, and we find more accurate. Because we can do it when we're open, we don't have to close and readjust everybody's schedule. Something to scan because we bring the entire crew in.
Right.
One thing I will add on that is that we don't do inventory all at once, we roll. And so that kind of prevents some of that concern, is that we'll do a block of inventory and like it's on the schedule. So over the course of the year, we've done the whole library.
I'm having a hard time remembering everything to summarize for people that are online, but we had some discussion about open versus closed and some people find that being open while they're doing inventory gets complicated because things get checked out. Another librarian likes the printing, finds it more accurate. So everybody has a different experience. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for your time.